Shelby Earl, everybody. Woo!
Hello.
Pleasure to talk to you, Shelby. We're gonna dig in with some. I guess probably after we get done talking about the weather. It's a little wet over here on Vashon Island. How are you feeling in the city?
Oh yeah, I'm in Ballard. I actually I'm in my little studio outbuilding. My little
well, you have an
studio
ADU,
space.
don't you?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I just walked from the house into here, and I'm drying off. It is absolutely punishing rain out there right now. But it's perfect for your podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so wet out here that all the sheep have run down into my neighbor's pasture where there's an open gate and there's trees down there they can hide under. So I'm gonna have to. I'll have to. Yeah.
That reminds me. That was the last time I saw you.
I know.
On your farm with my little dude. He's 2.5.
Are you finding that your son likes music and being able to kind of integrate that?
He does. There are certain songs he wants me to play. The main song he wants me to play is the Planet song because he is super, which I did not write, but he's super, super planet obsessed and knows everything about the planets. And this is his favorite song. So he wants me to play that one all the time. Yesterday, I was playing one of my own songs. He was in the studio with me here, and he's like, "Mama, that's too loud. No, it's too loud." I'm like, "Okay, how about the Planet song again, buddy?"
Yeah.
So he likes me, and he does we're trying to expose him to a lot of different stuff. He definitely likes music, but he has his leanings for sure. He seems to have a little science mind. So he's 2.5. So again, who knows? But it'll be interesting to see where he goes. He's exposed to a lot of music, but I don't know. Then again, science mind and music mind often.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a math component there. My youngest plays cello, and there's a heavy duty math component with him. Yeah. Like he's like 2 grades ahead in math, and kind of. I mean, I was not like that. No, but he is, and so he's also, he loves to read music and all that stuff. So it's
Have you heard this whole? I guess now they teach different kinds of intelligences. Like when we were in school, you were smart or not, I guess.
Or you're going to be a bricklayer, which is what happened to me in 10th grade.
Yeah. And now they teach different kinds of intelligences, right? And at some point I heard there were 7, and now I think they're upping that number all the time. But one of them that I read and I was like, oh, I feel validated is, and this will sound self-congratulatory. I don't mean it to. It's more like it made sense for me where the other non-intelligences were for me. But one of the intelligences was rhythmic intelligence. And I thought that was so interesting.
Wow.
And it explains so many of us who maybe from the beginning, because I was one of these who just was like, oh, music. I mean, that's all. Right. That was just an instant response for me. It's all I wanted to do or be or think about. And I do not have a math mind. And actually, I've always had trouble with written music. So notation, I can kind of follow it at this point, I've done enough to be able to track, but it was never easy for me. It never made a lot of sense. And I think people with the science math mind, music makes sense to them on paper. There's a really
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. And so separate. There's an ease there, I think, for learning written music. And for me, it was always feel. So I write from the gut and it's all feel. And
I know. I pretty much, I took lessons, but I'm pretty much self-taught. Everybody, talking at you because I'm going to start a new subscription thing on my website. It's called the Homestead, And it's been a crazy couple of years, and things have opened up a little bit, and they'll probably open up more next spring for more shows and more communication. But I wanted to find a way to get some of the music out that I've been working on in a way that isn't just broadcasting at people over social media. So I've decided to do a subscription service. It's called the Homestead through my website, Danny Newcomb Music. And if you sign up, you get outtakes, you get songs that I recorded over the past year, as well as some behind the scenes. I'll be working on songs and sharing things like that. I don't know about the farm pics. We'll have to see about that. The animals just won't cooperate. But just wanted to be able to have a conversation, and one that was not dictated by Facebook. So if you're interested in hearing unreleased material or getting unreleased material before it's released, sort of a preview of it all, and some benefits for signing up, you get perks, but you'll find out about those on my website. Anyways, thanks for supporting me. Thanks for listening to my music. And if you're interested, please sign up, support the arts, and stay well. So you, from a young age, you knew you wanted to play music and you loved music. Was it in your home, and where did you grow up, Shelby?
Actually, so this is crazy. I just saw you post something yesterday about Olympia. I am from Olympia.
You are?
Yeah, the first 10 years of my life were in Olympia, Washington. And then my parents separated. Well, I guess my parents separated when I was 9. And so I was in elementary school. So, I wasn't like part of the oldie scene. My parents separated, and we relocated to Seattle at that point, and we're just here for a couple of years when actually both my parents were remarried. My mom married someone in Los Angeles. So we relocated to LA, which ended up being a very formative experience for me. So we moved to LA. I started 8th grade in LA. My first day of school, someone told me they were going to follow me home and rape me and rob me blind. So that was very exciting.
Well, at least oh my gosh, that's terrible.
A bit terrible. I shouldn't laugh, but I'm also like, welcome to LA. It was quite a shocker coming from.
What part of town did you guys live in?
We were in the Valley, but I was going to Taft High, which is I went to Taft High. I was in LA Unified School District. So my middle school was part of LA Unified School District, and
so like a pretty normal neighborhood. It wasn't super intense. It was
normal neighborhood, but also like super diverse school and super diverse neighborhood.
Right.
And man, I'm so grateful for that experience. So my young years, I just always wanted to sing. There was not much natural talent to speak of. And I'm not being modest in any way. My mom, I really wanted to take voice lessons really, really badly. And no teachers would take me. I don't know if it's still that way now, but they wouldn't, they don't want to mess with your vocal cords before you're developed enough. So no one would take me. So for my 11th birthday, I got voice lessons as my birthday present. And the teacher, my mom talks about the teacher sort of auditioning me to study with her. And my mom was in the other room, and she said she listened to me just like warbling on in there and thought, oh no, her dreams are going to be crushed and she's going to be destroyed. And this teacher, God bless her, said, Shelby, I can hear something deep, deep down in there. And it would be my pleasure to help you bring it out. Because again, as much as I wanted to sing, it was not like my leading competency. So I ended up in a performing group in LA, which I'm also really grateful for. Such an amazing experience with all these crazy talented kids, all of whom ended up on like Star Search and stuff. It was like kind of that realm.
Well, because you're in LA, right? I mean, you can make that leap.
Exactly. And so we would like open for celebrities, and it was this kind of wild experience, but it was a singing and dancing group. And what was weird was it turned out that dance was like far more natural for me
Oh,
I ended up getting pretty heavily into hip hop, and this is like early 90s. And then really kind of like dug into that in LA for a while. And but my singing voice never matched my dancing. I have like this folk voice.
You're like, it'll catch up. I know it will.
Somehow, like I have whatever the opposite of like a skilled R&B voice is. Like
Right. Well,
not
that's an intense thing. That's a
yeah, and I had like I was in this performing group with kids who could crush that, and I was
yeah.
just not one of them. So I kind of, but all the time I was also like working on my singing a lot, and it wasn't until I came back, I moved back to Seattle to go to UW, and where both my parents had gone. So I did the whole, follow your parents' lead.
So you came out of that formative situation. You came to Seattle, and then
Yeah.
So the thing that's tripping me out the most about this is I just got done listening to your records, and it was weird because I kind of heard you coming from not only a sort of like an Irish folky background, like in terms of family, and like possibly maybe even Catholic. I don't know. Is that in there somewhere?
Oh, funny. No.
Okay,
So,
great. I lose.
But it's weird. You know what? I swear it is like past lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
not, I mean, not to get spooky, but it's very weird. I don't know where, and I had a great teacher, a vocal teacher in Seattle. So it was when I came back and went to UW that I first met people making original music. So that was the first time, up until then, everything I was doing was like cover music, pop music, or like dancing for people who are doing pop music.
And you were like 21, 22 now, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I'm back in Seattle, and I'm meeting people who are listening to like indie rock and singer-songwriters and whatever, and are writing their own music. And I mean, it got me right in the gut. It was like everything that I had been missing, but I had to do a lot of unlearning. And thank God I had this great teacher here in Seattle. Her name's Awilda Verdejo, and this Puerto Rican opera singer, of all things. She was like, I'm not going to teach you to sound like me, and I'm going to teach you to stop sounding like all your heroes, and we're going to find your voice. So her whole thing was clearing away.
Oh, like, wow. Okay.
Getting rid of all the other stuff. So
it's so hard to grow up and, in mass culture and just not being, sort of what's the cheese word for it? Inoculated, right? With this, whatever sounds of the moment are. I mean, I still, know some people who try and sing like the guy from Metallica, and it's so unfortunate, anyway, maybe I'll
and now it's the froggy girl voice.
Martin Fevia was complaining to me about that last night.
Oh yeah,
they come in, they want to sing like they're chewing gum. I'm like, oh, Martin.
Like they're chewing gum.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Totally. But we all mimic first. That's how we learn.
Right. I mean, and that's how you stretch those muscles, right? Yeah.
That's right. And so then thankfully I had this teacher who was like, no, we're gonna just clear all that out of there. And thank God for her. And that's where, I mean, I do feel like now I sound like myself. But to your point, this Celtic thing, there's a Celtic thing, and there's very much like an Americana country thing, which I spent a lot of time, like when I put my first record out, I was so shocked and annoyed that people were calling it country. And I spent all this energy saying, no, I'm not a country artist. Like I put that in my bio. Meanwhile, my name is Shelby Earl.
Right. And everybody who listens is like, no, we will decide.
That's right. And now I'm like, why did I waste that energy? Because I should have been like, I don't care what you call me, just call me.
Just listen, right.
However it sounds to you is fine by me, because this is just what's coming on me. And I think the Celtic thing is weird because that I didn't have the input of that. So that's why I'm like, that must be some past life thing. The country element, that is what my dad listened to when I was young.
Okay.
So that's in there. That's one of those where like I did take it in when I was young, and I probably didn't realize that it was influencing me. And my mom loved Linda Ronstadt, and I maybe have some of her vibrato.
Right. I got hit with Doc Watson and Odetta, so yeah.
So those are cool. I mean, those are cool influences. I don't know.
Can't get rid of it.
Yeah. So who knows about the Celtic thing? Oddly, I'm married to an Irishman now.
Well, like, that maybe that colored, maybe that's what you mentioned. But I think there's the language that you use, the language that you sort of hinge your choruses on and ideas on, is also not arcane, but it is a little bit. There's a little bit old fashioned in there, you know. The vapas, you know. It's like, you know, that's not all the way back, but
that's that one. And that's a weird one. I don't really know where that lyric came from at all. I mean,
it's great. It's a great word, great hook.
Thank you. Yeah. So I mean, that's how it all happened. And then I had, you know, my first band just out of college, but I wasn't writing, I was just singing. And that band broke up because the writer said, I am the generative artist and you are the interpretive artist. And I said, don't box me in. You watch.
Wow. That's a discussion I've never had. That's very funny. Well, cool. All right. So that was like maybe 96.
That was 99.
That was 99.
99, okay. 2000. In fact, we played. So I, at the same time, started working at Experience Music Project, like when it first opened. And we played our first show at Sky Church.
Nice.
Super low key. Very so
that's the only place I've been where like you can literally hear everything. You can hear,
It was terrifying. It was terrifying.
That's great.
So it ended when it needed to end, and that was it ended in order to preserve the relationships.
That's
so
great.
I'm always a huge fan of people ending bands if they need to. If you need to hang on to those friendships, do it.
And it's always better to hang on to the friendships. Yeah.
Always, like, I mean, 99% of the time. Maybe if it's someone toxic, not so much. But
that's another podcast.
Yeah, that's yet another podcast. No, these were my best friends. So that was the right thing. But that was in 2006, maybe. We finally ended the band. And I thought at that point, well, maybe that was it. You know, maybe like music was the thing I did in my young years and like what a fun dream. And at this point I was working in the music industry full-time. Like I started at EMP, I was there for 3 years and was on the programming team with Ben London and Andrew McKaig and Susie Tennant, and just the most amazing experience. And was there and until our whole team got laid off, as happened at EMP. And then went to a label and was doing radio promotion. We won't speak of the label because it's terrible music. Don't quote me on that. And then what did I do after? Oh, and then I went to Amazon and worked on the music team at Amazon. So anyway, ended the band right at the same time I started at Amazon. And so I was thinking, maybe I'm just like a music industry person, you know, maybe that was, and the minute I released myself from the pressure, I started writing songs.
Yeah, right.
Just like in my living room by myself, just for me. And then some friend was having an ice cream social and said, will you play some of your new songs? And then it just, I got so obsessed, and songwriting became the best part of it for me. So Well, one of the things, I guess since I started, I'm really bad about listening to a lot of music because I tend to just play music when I want to hear it. But I really enjoyed, I think I saw your show a couple of years ago now at the VCA, and I really enjoyed the fact that they were real songs. They were crafted songs, and I really enjoyed the songs. That's there's an appreciation for the form that some people have, you know, this sort of traditional form, and then they do their own thing with it. And I really saw that in your music. It was great. Really enjoyed it. That is, well, if you're a song person, then you know that there's no
right.
And you are too. I know that about you as well. But thank you, because that's, I mean, that is what I care about, and that's what I spend the most energy on. And I think because I started as a singer, it's taken me a while to shed like now I really enjoy playing live. And that switch happened when I released like trying to sound perfect. I would beat myself up if I didn't sing perfectly. And then I realized, no, like people are experiencing the song.
Yeah,
right. They care far less about, you know,
that's a really good point.
Land on the note. Like people, especially when they're hearing you for the first time, or maybe if they already know the song, maybe it kind of goes both ways. They're experiencing the song. So let them experience that and like get out of the way and stop stressing. And as soon as I could finally internalize that, it's become so much more fun for me. And just delivering the song now is the fun.
Right. You know. There's that whole thing as a musician that you want to do. And that was the thing I really hated about touring back in the 90s with Goodness was I would get on stage and as a writer / guitar player, I would feel like I had to recreate every single part. And it's a little bit different when you're a structural instrument, but it just drove me nuts. It just, you know, I got so bored and and you're just like, what? It's no fun.
And were you writing your own stuff at that point too, or did that come later?
Well, I've always written my own stuff, but when I was writing in Goodness, and Carrie and I were actually signed to Atlantic. Goodness was signed to Atlantic, but it was Carrie and I were signed as writers because we wrote all the material. So I would write for her. So I was writing for, you know, a female voice, which also has its own things, cool things. I mean, it's different for me, you know, but. Yeah. So having that experience writing but being on the creative side and wanting to just create all the time is vastly different than playing the same thing every night. Yeah. And it just takes all the gas out of the balloon, frankly.
Right. But do you have that same experience as like the person delivering the song vocally? Because I find that I do get a different new energy from it each time.
It's always different. Singing is always different.
Yeah.
I'm amazed by it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you get to really share with, not that a guitar player isn't sharing with the audience. I mean, obviously, but there's something about that energy exchange. Like it's your actual breath.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. It's actually you're breathing. You're breathing on everybody, which is not so great in a pandemic, it turns out. But no, you're absolutely right. So tell me a little about your records and how they happened. The first record, who produced that and who worked with you on that?
Oh yeah. So, you know, I mentioned I went to work at Amazon, and then 2 years into that, as I'd been, you know, starting to write songs on the side, and then 2 years in had this collection of songs and was thinking like, oh, maybe I could record those. That might be kind of cool. And I played a few solo shows and whatever. And then I was so miserable in that job. I was so miserable. And I was sitting at my desk one day and just went like, hold on. Nobody's making me do this. I actually don't have to be here. What? And so made a plan, like checked on when my stocks were vesting and I did the early out. So like when you go to work for Amazon, and I assume any of, you know, these tech companies, there's like the first vest at 2 years where you get a percentage of your stock value. And then you fully vest at 3 years. And so that's like, if you look at the stats at Amazon, that's when everyone leaves. They stay 3 years and then they're like, enough is enough. But I stayed 2 and said, enough is enough. And literally like gave notice the day after my 2-year vest, and then took the money out and left and went straight into a studio with a guy named Ben Kirsten. Okay. He did like a lot of Band of Horses stuff and
nice. Okay.
Like early days with those guys. And I haven't tracked with him. I don't know what he's up to right now, but he was great. Like that was my first time doing stuff on my own. And, you know, as anyone who's like been in a band and then goes out on their own knows, like it's pretty vulnerable. You don't have
right. And had you had a lot of experience recording?
Fair. We did 2 albums, and one of the previous band. Oh, and the last, I never said the last incarnation of that band was called The Hope, and that is how I met Martin Fevier. So we made a record with Martin as The Hope.
So you go way back with Martin.
I go way back. That was in 2005.
Yeah.
And so we made a killer record with Martin. And I actually still feel bad because he and a number of people, it was one of those things where like we were two kind of relatively young women, myself and the primary bandmate. She wrote the songs, I sang them, and then we had a band around us. And I think people saw like dollar signs.
Like, oh yeah,
like the songs were really good. She's a super gifted writer. And Martin he's not a dollar sign guy. He just thought the music was really good. And we got really tight with him, and he was super involved in making that record. And I'm still proud of that record.
That's great.
But there was like a little feeding frenzy, and there were some offers from some indie labels, and everyone said, oh, no. Don't take that. You guys are going to get a huge deal. It was one of those like, no. You guys are going to get $100,000 to sign with someone. So we just said, no. And then everyone went away.
That's such a crazy game. I don't know if you've talked to Ben. I don't know if you've talked to Ben about his experience too. I mean, at some point, there's the whole musical chairs thing. And, I just want to tell the story really quick because to me, the 90s were so crazy. But as far as the feeding frenzy thing, especially in Seattle, but Goodness was courted by a lot of labels, I guess. It was Arista ended up flying us out to New York for a showcase. This is the story of how we got signed. And so Clive Davis was going to fly us out on his dime to do a showcase, but we were also being courted by Atlantic, Jason Flom, who just started his own label, and it's the label Matchbox 20 and all that came out of him.
Okay.
And so these guys are both, I mean, Jason is a really capricious character. He's really kind of his best friend is the guy from Twisted Sister, who's also a really nice guy, possibly nicer than Jason. But he goes way back, like was doing massive amounts of cocaine in the 80s and 90s and just total party kid.
Yeah.
So they fly us out, and we're up there, and we're kind of like we're open to set, and we were playing with a friend's band, and the singer for the other band was named Jason, and a good friend of ours. And so Carrie and I get up, and Garth and Chris and Fia, and we run through our normal set, and we're a little bit nervous, but things sound good. And we look out, and there's all the A&R people out there. We can see Clive Davis in the big camel hair jacket. We can see Jason. And halfway through the set, Carrie said, "Well, I'd really like to thank our friends for playing." And there's a pause, and she says something else about the next song. And this is dedicated to Jason. Well, Jason Flom thought the song was dedicated to him. And he turns to Clive Davis and he goes, see, they want to sign with me. So he gave us a deal right after that. And Clive left kind of quickly after the show. And we're like, what happened? And it took me years to figure out till I talked to the head of marketing at Atlantic. And he goes, well, when Carrie dedicated that song to Jason, it just sent him over the moon, being able to show up Clive that way. And it's just like, the whole thing was just so.
Oh my gosh. That's pain. I mean, it worked out, but like.
No, yeah. I mean, as well as anything does, but right. It's like Charlton Heston, Soylent Green, it's people. It's all people.
It's all people. Oh my goodness. That's a hell of a story. We didn't even get that far. We had a couple of people fly out to see us at the old Croc, and we played for like a third full room because we were brand
you were brand new.
We were brand new. We hadn't put the record out yet.
And this what year was this? 99?
No. This is 2005. This is 2005.
Okay. So the music business already started to change quite a bit.
Yeah. And people came out and were like, oh, it's not a full room. We were like, well, yeah, because we just changed our name to this name, and we just made the record and haven't put it out yet. And it was, anyway, they all went, and then they went away, and then we broke up. Not because of that, but we
right.
We had already kind of run our course. But anyway, when the Head and the Heart were first playing shows, and I knew a couple of them, and when they were starting to have the feeding frenzy, I was like, my one piece of advice is do not say no to everyone. Say yes, even if it ends up being a mistake.
That's what they said?
That's what I said to them.
Oh.
I was like, you guys, don't say no to everything.
Right.
Just whatever you do, say yes.
That's actually, that's good general life advice.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I became much more of a yes person as far as music goes. In fact, I have a friend who he's done really well in his career, independent artist, but he recently was like, you always say yes to these like benefit shows and tribute shows and stuff. I'm like, yeah, because pretty much every time it ends up being wonderful. And I just spent enough time saying no to everything, and at this point I'm just thrilled to like be included and still be a part of stuff. So yeah, I learned my no lesson. So anyway, we made that record with Martin and then sadly broke up, but that's when, it ended up being so great for me because it's what sent me into songwriting myself.
So the second record, so how many years were between the first record and the second record? 4 or 5 years?
I didn't even answer. So I started making that record. I was about 6 months into making my first record.
Okay.
When I met John Roderick, and I can't even remember like how that happened or how we got talking, but we might have been at Hazelwood one night and I was like, I'm making my first record and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you should send it to me. Oh, I think I know what it was. I said, would you be down to play some bass on it? And he goes, okay. He's like, yes, but also, why are you 6 months into making a record and you don't know who's playing bass on it? And I was like, well, I'm kind of doing it myself and blah, blah, blah. So he's like, send it to me. So I sent him what I had. And he said, it was really sweet. He was like, this is really good and like not run of the mill, which was shocking to me because I didn't know if I was making anything worth anything. You don't know when you're in it. And it's my first time going through the process by myself. He said, I think this is really good and could be like something special. And I would love to help you finish it. And we can call that whatever you're comfortable calling that role. But he came on board and then he got Eric Corson of the Long Winters on board, and Eric engineered, and we would go to Eric's house every day and bring in all kinds, like Michael Lerner from Telekinesis played some drums and a couple of the Maldives dudes played on it. And John, of course, played on it and a bunch of other, like it was a group effort, but John was this great sort of connector and catalyst.
Right.
To finishing that record. So I did call him producer because that is totally the role he took on. He just took it on halfway through and helped me bring it home. And then it was the next record. I sat down with Damian Dorado and asked him if he'd be willing to produce. And his whole approach was totally, totally different, which was we're going to go to a big room. I want a big, reverberant room, and we're going to make this record. It's going to be a microphone and a microphone. And he's like, you better rehearse because we're doing this live.
Wow.
Woo! So I am a passable guitar player at best. And at that point I was a very shaky guitar player, very shaky. I'd always been the singer. So
you were supposed to play guitar and sing at the same time. Oh, that's a lot.
That's what we did.
Wow.
So we did. And so actually he had a very cool concept, which we ended up doing. He said, I'd like to find 2 other acoustic well, they don't have to be, 2 other guitar players to play exactly what you're playing in the room with you. So that's how I met Eric Hawk, who's ended up being like one of my main collaborators and just best dude ever.
He's playing in your last record is great. I really like it.
Yes, he's amazing. He's just amazing. But he was also on the Swift Arrows one with Damian, and he. So it was Eric and then my friend Reagan Crow, who's also a phenomenal guitar player, and had a band called Shim. I don't know if you ever saw Shim, but they were killer. So the 3 of us just learned all the songs. Same. They would do different voicings, but all 3 of us on acoustic. And we tracked the songs that way. like I sang and the three of us played live acoustic in the room. And that was for like any of the acoustic songs. And then we did full band in the room live for the band songs. It was bonkers.
It's a totally different vibe doing it that way. So you cut the artist that way? Is that off that record, or is that off the first record?
Yeah. No, it's off that record.
Okay, because that sounds great, and it's a full band track. Yeah, it's great.
And you can hear the room. Like
you can hear the room. Yeah, I can hear that.
You know, that record's hard for me because there are just so many painful mistakes and like tempos that are wrong, you know, to me wrong, and all of this. And yet it is still the record that people are like, that's one song. And
it's very strange how people do that, but people know. Yeah,
they know. They just feel it. They know it's coming from a different place. They don't necessarily know how, and they might even know you recorded it live, but they're not sure why that would change how they would hear it or feel it. You know,
right.
We know that, but
we know it. Yeah. Drums with vocals, drums with guitars, all that stuff live. I mean, I love to record that way. But I know from personal experience that playing an acoustic song, especially with intricate picking and singing, is not something that's easy for me to do. And get
I was doing no intricate picking.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
I don't want to cover no James Taylor, okay?
Real basic Travis picking.
Right.
If that.
Right. Everybody, talking at you because I'm going to start a new subscription thing on my website. It's called the Homestead, and it's been a crazy couple of years, and things have opened up a little bit, and they'll probably open up more next spring for more shows and more communication. But I wanted to find a way to get some of the music out that I've been working on in a way that isn't just broadcasting at people over social media. So I've decided to do a subscription service. It's called the Homestead through my website, Danny Newcomb Music. And if you sign up, you get outtakes, you get songs that are recorded over the past year, as well as some behind the scenes. I'll be working on songs and sharing things like that. I don't know about the farm picks. We'll have to see about that. The animals just won't cooperate. But just wanted to be able to have a conversation, and one that was not dictated by Facebook. So if you're interested in hearing unreleased material or getting unreleased material before it's released, sort of a preview of it all, and some benefits for signing up, you get perks, but you'll find out about those on my website. Anyways, thanks for supporting me. Thanks for listening to my music. And if you're interested, please sign up, support the arts, and stay well. I did want to talk a little bit about touring because I feel like my touring experience with a band on a major label was so different from touring now. And I was really interested to hear about, kind of community, like with other artists as you're touring, and kind of how you felt about, traveling, doing tours by yourself, or I know you have a companion dog and your routes and things like that, but just the how it was rewarding, how it wasn't rewarding, and all that.
Yeah, well, I really liked the tours where I went out solo and was paired with another songwriter, because usually we would drive together and share hotels and do all that kind of stuff. The only problem is everyone falls in love by accident.
No comment.
So that's a job hazard.
It's good for songwriters, though.
It's good for songwriters.
Yeah.
But not real life. And so there's that. But I really, really loved doing living room show tours. So that was also solo. But those shows are kind of my favorite experiences. And then you really meet people.
Then you're really in it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You're really like in it everywhere you go. And you make better money. Yeah. I mean, frankly, so the money part of it's so hard right now, as I'm sure, as you know, and it's just hard to make the numbers work when you're out with a band. And then honestly, I just found that there was less real connection in each place playing full band shows. You have your crew, so it's super fun and all that, but yeah.
Well, I don't think the old model, I mean, yeah. I mean, having 5 band members, a sound man, and some kind of tech, like once you start adding the numbers up for doing that, you can't, it doesn't work unless you're, up at a bus level. Yeah. That's the only time it works.
That's right. There's like, I was just saying this to someone, like there's very little like middle class in music right now. Very small.
Exactly it. That's exactly it.
Because it's just, one of my friends just yesterday, I was like, how's it going? He's like, I just did a tour that was rough, like $5 a gallon gas, out by myself, playing weird rooms because of COVID. Everyone's weird and so now it's even more complicated. But yeah, the numbers. I was pretty tired the last run I did with the band. I mean, the shows were really fun, but when we played the songs from this last record. And I was definitely like, man, I don't know if I can keep pushing the boulder up the mountain this way, like in this model. So then I promptly had a child. So that kind of derailed. I came back and took a detour right after that tour. But I think part of it was me going, I need a break, like I just promoting yourself.
To ad nauseum these days. Yeah, it's just.
I was like, I don't want to write my name one more time. So yeah.
So, but tell me about, were there places in the States that you love to play, where you felt like your music was really well received? Like, where did you like to go?
I mean, I did a tour with like a Southeast tour with my friend Erin Lee Tasjan. That was so cool. And I felt like my songs went well. They landed well there. Also, Ireland.
Yeah.
Not in the States, but when I played in Ireland,
right,
I've had some pretty cool experiences because they care about songs and
songs
and voices. They care about songs and voices. And so I've found, but you can find listening audiences everywhere. I don't know. I haven't toured I've toured mostly West Coast. So
yeah.
It's not like, well, the 5 times I've been to Atlanta, I can't.
There's this one shake joint that is so good. Well, I mean, and I totally agree with you. I think living room shows, I mean, if you are a singer, songwriter, and can, are portable, it's living room shows are really fun. And to make those kind of connections, that's kind of really the reason why we're doing it, because nobody's getting rich. So that's kind of the deal. Yeah.
And then there's like, Damien Jurado said to me at one point a few years ago, he's like, I've like played Royal Albert Hall and it was like the pinnacle for me. And now literally all I want to do are living room show tours. I just want to be with people. They're like the only shows that matter to me. I was like, okay, good. So
that's really intense.
It's intense, but it's like, fair enough, because they are special. There's just more of an energy exchange.
Yeah, more breathing.
There's
more breathing.
Yes, back to the breathing. And people breathing right back at you.
Yeah.
Dark horse, you never seem to care what anyone tells you, but oh,
You're listening to a sneak peek of Feelings by Danny Newcomb featuring Carrie Acri. Subscribe to the Homestead at DannyNewcombMusic.com to hear the full song now.